Before we take a look at the future of Lord of the Rings media, we have to take a look at its past, and in this case, the most recent past is Viggo Mortensen. Yeah, Aragorn himself, the High King of Gondor, King Elessar, has turned 67 on the 20th of October. Man, just a guy that I really don't think Hollywood took full advantage of this man's talent. And I'm not just saying that as somebody who is probably going to close in by the end of the year watching Lord of the Rings like 20 times. I know that simultaneously seems like a lot, but then when you take a look at some of the more devoted and concerted fans, then again, I was also throughout the entire year and still plan on doing as much, going back and forth between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings several times, at least once a month. And so, yeah, it'll be both trilogies. I've lost count, but it'll be close to about 20 times. But yeah, man, just the different ranges that he depicted. And I know we talked about it earlier this week, though. There's no moral complexity on display with Lord of the Rings. I mean, just the arc that Aragorn goes on in that story. How he's antagonistic towards Boromir. Hell, even the character of Boromir, but that's a different story for another time. So yes, happy birthday, Viggo. 67. And in 20 years' time, you can do an accurate portrayal of that ranger from the north. But there was also another anniversary that also took place on the 20th. Today also marked the 70th year. 70 years since The Return of the King was published, that resulted in the end of the Third Age and the rise of the timeless legacy. Yes, where the descendants of Aragorn would reign for 100 uninterrupted generations. Though the conclusion of the greatest literary trilogy is 3 years older than the, ostensible deuteragonist of the best cinematic trilogy of all time, which in a few short weeks celebrates its 24th anniversary, meaning that there's going to be some very interesting math taking place over the next couple of years as each subsequent installment of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings turns 25 years old, which is just simultaneously amazing how all those movies still hold up. The visual effects, obviously the writing, obviously the character work, but just and specifically the 4K restorations. It's like, God, man, how do you take one of the best, for me, it's like the best work of cinema ever, and then just make them look as if they were made yesterday, but they were made at a time when people actually cared and gave a shit about making film. It's just how awesome the Balrog looks continuously in Fellowship, and how the Ride of the Rohirrim, especially, when the string version of the, Rohan theme hits, it just still hits that hard. All of the bigature work and, the Two Towers, it's like it still looks so amazing. Ah, man, they just don't make them like they used to, huh? Which is why, on one hand, I hope the video game media of The Lord of the Rings, which two of its best inclusions were based off of Peter Jackson's movies, the Two Towers game, which I don't remember if I ever got around to playing it, but the Return of the King game, I've talked about it at length. That's one that I've sunk dozens of hours into. I gotta find my old PS2 games. See if I do have a copy of that. Either that or I just rented it endlessly. The game is so goddamn good. I think I own it, but I can't make sure. I think the only PS2 games that I still have out and exposed are my copies of Kingdom Hearts 1, RE Chain of Memories, and Kingdom Hearts 2, and the Final Fantasy games that came out on PS2. I have dozens of other PS2 games. But anyways, a reminder about the, from a couple weeks back, a new Lord of the Rings game is in development, and we talked about this, and, well, there's been an update on this development, okay? A brand new Lord of the Rings game is in development and has been for some time. Sources close to the game tell Insider Gaming that a new title is set to be at least partially funded by the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, ADIO. This funding should equate to roughly $100 million, give or take. Yes, it's supposed to be a third-person action game that is rival or supposed to be equivalent to that of Hogwarts Legacy for the Lord of the Rings franchise, which does in fact sound awesome. It just all kind of depends on what age they're setting it in, what storyline they're going to be doing, and all of that other extra shit. But yeah, the update as of the 20th, wow, a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff happens on the 20th. Insider Gaming has learned that the deal with the Abu Dhabi Investment Office has been signed. It's currently unclear if or when a public announcement will be made, because yeah, they were anticipating that it was going to be coming in short order. I kind of threw it out, especially when we were talking about it at the time, that I would imagine probably the Game Awards, biggest, splashiest event that is still left on the calendar this year. So that's definitely, and especially at this point in time, where I think we're going to be getting some news on this, and yeah, a little bit of information as to what exactly we're going to be dealing with. Is this going to be a third age story? I would have to imagine that's going to be the case, where you can pick whatever race you want, and maybe it's a side story that runs in conjunction, a la the Third Age, with the events of the Fellowship. It could be the case. I would kind of like that. That'd be fun. But then again, I just kind of want a good Lord of the Rings game. I just kind of want good Lord of the Rings media, full stop, because, well, the next movie that we're going to be getting, on one hand, it's like I couldn't be any more scared of this, because this is something that is not just taking place during the events of the trilogy, okay? Now, isn't just bringing back some legacy characters. This is putting some shit right at the front of Fellowship, okay? Within, taking place within the first 30 fucking minutes of the trilogy, and has the potential to just mess a lot of shit up. And we're talking that Hunt for Gollum movie, which could be 2 movies, maybe, because according to Ian McKellen, when he was, letting slip way too much information, I think like a year ago at this point in time, saying that it's going to be 2 movies. And then recently, within the past month or so, he came forward and said, I don't really know, but I don't know what to say about the script. All I can say is there's going to be a character called Gandalf and one called Frodo. And it's like, wait, what? Okay, this is supposed to be the Hunt for Gollum, but you're going to have Frodo in it? That doesn't make a lot of sense if you're familiar with some of the source material. You know which characters are going to be included in it, and oh god, for as much as I would, I guess if you don't want spoilers, you could just fast forward a little bit, but for as much as I would like a conversation between Aragorn and Thranduil and just full stop seeing more of Thranduil from The Hobbit, at this point in time, I don't want it, and especially seeing how, the Hobbit movies were treated by Peter Jackson after the fact, it's like, oh god. For as much good stuff as in The Hobbit, it does not overshadow all of the stupidity that's in there as well. So as cool and as nice and as fun as it'll be to see, as it is put here, to get the creative band back together, I would much rather let sleeping dogs lie. But Lord of the Rings star Elijah Wood praises Hunt for Gollum movie script and says the franchise's creative band is back together. Yeah, great. Lord of the Rings spin-off The Hunt for Gollum has a great script and production team behind it. Middle-earth movie star Elijah Wood has reassured fans, seemingly hinting at his own involvement. Well, yeah, Gandalf tipped it off at a con back in August or September, I can't remember. While some have debated the need for a Smeagol spin-off. Yeah, I mean, there is a story to tell here. It's also Fellowship, especially with exclusively in the movie, implies that there isn't that 17-year gap that is present in the books between Frodo inheriting the ring from Bilbo and Gandalf going off and researching the ring, as well as tracking down Gollum for its last known location. We are led to believe that happens in a relatively small period of time, although they aren't explicit as to how long it takes. Could be a week, it could be as long as 6 months, but anything longer than that, it kind of stretches believability. And so to say that it's going to somehow take place along the lines of the 17-year gap that is present in the books, it's like, okay, cool, but if that was the case, you would just be focusing on Aragorn, Gollum, Gandalf, Thranduil, probably Legolas, because he'll just simply be in the area, and we know that there was some pre-established relationship between Aragorn and Legolas prior to the the Council of Elrond, and so fleshing that out kind of makes sense. It's just, how do the Hobbits factor into this? That's one thing that doesn't really make sense. And whenever Peter Jackson and his side of the Warner Brothers Lord of the Rings interpretations manifest, well, you end up with the love triangle and all of the stuff in Dol Guldur, which effectively assassinates the character of Gandalf in the Hobbit movies. Like I said, there's good stuff in there. It's just an awful lot of stupid. But yeah, speaking at Desert Con, okay, Wood said that he has he had been kept closely informed on the movie, which will reunite Lord of the Rings director and script writers Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens, with Gollum actor, Andy Serkis, who is set to star and direct the film. And yeah, because it was Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens that pushed for the love triangle that in some of the behind-the-scenes features, even going all the way back to Lord of the Rings, they just fundamentally did not understand the character of Éowyn. They were the ones that would have pushed for more of a role for Arwen, which did end up working out all well and good. But yeah, Fran and Philippa also were the ones responsible for War of the Rohirrim. So, And in regard to Andy Serkis, he was the second unit director for, I think, all 3 Hobbit movies. 2 of them to be sure, but I think all 3. So yeah, he has the chops. He's done it before. And then you factor in his other directorial experience working on the Venom movies, and it's like, oh shit. Okay, all right. I'm happy to see more Lord of the Rings. I'm happy to see more things I remember, but I don't really want it. I know a great deal about it, Wood said. I've read the script. It's really good. There's some wonderful people involved. The thing that is so exciting is that it's really getting the creative band back together. The brain trust behind Lord of the Rings, Fran, Peter, Philippa, they're heavily involved, which is not a great thing. And then the same production designers, which, okay, so Weta's going to be working on this, so it's going to look good. It's going to look like PJ's Lord of the Rings, okay? It is going to be shot in New Zealand, which is awesome. Okay, all of the superficial shit is there. Names you remember, places that you can recall. So it's going to carry with it such continuity. So many people who are part of the Lord of the Rings, and I'm really excited about that. It feels like getting that old machine up and running again with all the right people. Wood is definitely is yet to formally state that he's going to be reprising his role as Frodo Baggins. It really does make sense, man. Unless they try to tell some other story with the hobbits, meaning that a much fatter and more simple-minded Frodo, not Frodo, because, you know, Elijah Wood's been pretty good about keeping his nose clean when it comes to a lot of stupid shit from other people associated with this franchise have done in recent years. No, Sean Astin, the current the current president of the Film Actors Guild, by the way, which is more than likely about to go on strike next year again. Fucking lol. But yeah, he's about, another 50 pounds heavier. So that's going to be an interesting problem to overcome. And I just recently listened to a couple of interviews from the other two Hobbits that are fairly important to the story of the Lord of the Rings, and Dominic Monaghan's voice, oh boy, it has, let's just say, definitely changed since the 1999. But Billy Boyd, he honestly looks pretty much the same as he has, but yeah, man, again, you're going to be telling the story that didn't need to be told, and yet it's supposed to be taking place wedged between the beginning of the films and even the thrust of the wider story. It's going to be difficult to get the band back together and to make it look somewhat coherent, because yeah, for as good as Elijah Wood looks, and he looked absolutely identical that the way that he did in Lord of the Rings, that he did also in that prologue sequence in The Hobbit, that was 10 years. It's going to be 15 years on top of it. It's, okay, so Wood is, yes, he's yet to formally state that he's reprising his role as Frodo Baggins for the movie, though his involvement was widely expected following the recent surprise confirmation from Gandalf. Yes, Sir Ian McKellen, that the characters of Gandalf and Frodo will both appear in the film. Hunt for Gollum is set to chronicle a period between the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, really, where numerous characters are searching, yes, for the all-important ring previously known to be in Gollum's possession. Well, how does Gandalf deduce that the ring was once in Gollum's possession? Oh, right, that's because he goes to Minas Tirith and researches it based on the accountings of Isildur's scrolls. He goes to track down Gollum. He enlists the help of Thranduil and Aragorn. And it's like, yeah, there is a story that you can tell there. It's just not even remotely one that would top the list of any Tolkien fan's dream, or even one that I think that quote-unquote brain trust could competently tell at this point in time. It was a miracle that the Lord of the Rings are as good as they are, driven home by the Hobbit trilogy, and especially underlined by the what the fuck was that War of the Rohirrim. So yeah, I've got my fingers crossed. I'm hoping for the best, but very much expecting the worst. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.